The struggle of life is one of our greatest blessings. It makes us patient, sensitive, and godlike. It teaches us that although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming it. Helen Keller. Hi, I'm Jessica Disborough, licensed social worker and registered psychotherapist here in the state of Colorado. I'm also the founder and primary therapist of Higher Consciousness Healing. We're a small private practice in Lakewood, Colorado, which offers empowering and holistic mental health services to youth and adults. For more information about our practice, visit us on the web at www.higherconsciousnesshealing.org. Right now you're watching our live video blog, which airs every Saturday Mountain Time at 10 a.m. Today is not a 10 a.m. kind of show. It has been recorded live, but it's been pre-recorded on my personal channel because I am actually at a conference this Saturday. So my apologies, but I will be back in 2 weeks from now. All right, just a friendly reminder. Please comment and ask questions during the show. I really want to give you all the opportunity to do that. And if you're not watching it live, please feel free to comment, ask questions. You can even shoot me a personal message if you want to over Facebook. You know, that's okay. All right, today's episode, something that has plagued many. Why do bad things happen? You know, if God and the universe and everything is so good, why is there all this bad in the world? You know, kind of what's going on with that? Well, the really short answer is because it's part of our evolution, both physically and spiritually. First, I want to get into the physical part, the brain, because it really does allow us to better understand our own human experience. Our brain really has a limited perception. Now, I'm going to talk about a concept called object relations theory. It's the belief that everyone has within them an internal and often unconscious world of relationships that is different and more compelling and powerful than the external reality. Now, I use object relations theory, which was started to be developed by a few different psychologists beginning in the 40s and 50s, and it's been added on quite a bit, is because it really does mirror that limited brain perception that we're living with. As I've said in my other episodes, our experiences program our brain in such a way that we're now seeing the world through that lens of our experiences. And basically, object relations is saying the same thing. I'm just going to read it one more time. It's the belief that everyone has within them an internal and often unconscious world of relationships that is different and is often more compelling and powerful than the external reality. What does that mean, relationships? Well, it's our relationship to that external object, which could be anything. It could be a person, place, thing, anything, any kind of object. So what does this really mean? Well, basically, it means that we have the capacity, and often do, to create false stories about the world around us based on our past experiences. So we keep seeing the world through this lens that isn't really reality, basically. And that's honestly really scary because that's happening at the brain level. And when we go through these different life experiences, our brain is going to pick up on the things that it expects and recognizes already based on that past experience. So we are now going to start reading in to people's behaviors, events, and other things that are happening to us because we're looking for danger, basically. we're primed with that fear response, and it can be really disruptive in our lives. Another example of this is the awareness test with the basketball players and the gorilla. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a classroom where this awareness test was conducted, or if you've heard about it through other means, but basically it goes like this. There's a classroom full of students and the teacher turns on a basketball game. He asks the students to count how many times the white shirt team dribbles the ball. So all of the students are like really focused. The video ends, the students make these random guesses, and then the teacher asks the classroom, how many people saw the gorilla? Because apparently during the basketball game, a man dressed as a gorilla, walks across the basketball court, stands in the middle of the court while people are playing, and then exits. And only about 50% of people recognize the gorilla is even there, because we're so focused on this counting how many times the ball is dribbled or passed. That's kind of scary. We have a very limited perception about what's going on. To quote scientist Donald Hoffman, our perception is not accurate enough to discriminate between objects that resemble each other. So if our brain perception isn't even capable of discriminating between objects that are similar, what about big conceptual things? Like going about in the world and trying to have relationships with people in a seemingly dangerous environment. That becomes very complicated. Now, it's really important to know that most people are operating on a low level of anxiety and fear all the time. And especially in America, we're really primed for it. There's all the scary things happening on the news all the time. We're so fear-driven that we believe that we can't let our kids out of our sight anymore. They're not allowed to go and play in the neighborhood like they were 20, 30 years ago. We're just very paranoid that anything could happen. And really, in reality, crime rates have been going down. Communities are actually more safe than they were 20 or 30 years ago. And we're just feeding into this fear because it's so primal in us to try and escape and avoid these things. And we're basically driving ourselves crazy. So we all need to take a breath and start to really recognize that when we're getting upset, it's usually because of things in our past and not anything to do with what's happening in the present. Because what's really happening in the present is hurt people hurting people because they're seeing a very scary world when they're really just misinterpreting things around them to fit into their current worldview, which is based around fear. Because usually they've been pretty traumatized. They've gone through a lot of challenges and hurt and addiction and pain and poverty. And like all of the things that are so challenging in this place, and that's all they've ever known. And when you're in that really dark place and that's all you've ever known, it's really hard to get out of that. Because that's all we see everywhere we go are threats and potential dangers. And we're now seeing what's happening in many of our inner cities across the country and throughout the world, where people are taking violent actions because they're so scared and they're so primed that they're just reacting to each other. And usually it's over misunderstandings. As a lot of people who work with conflict resolution know, a lot of times when two people have a conflict, it's really just about a misunderstanding and a difference in perspective. And when the two people come together, they can see that they really do have some common ground and the misunderstanding really isn't that big of a deal. So please remember, our perception is extremely limited, especially on the brain level. Think about those creatures in the ocean who only can see certain colors of light and certain shades. It's just like that. We're only seeing a certain fraction of reality. So we really do need to come together and listen to each other and take that time to have that kindness and patience. So people are too busy reacting, and they don't realize that the problem is more in their head and coming from that brain and past trauma place than anything else. So that's really kind of intense for some, because if bad things are happening to you, that basically means that you have some baggage to work through that you're carrying with you. Now, it's really not your fault in any way at all. This is just our brain. This is life. This is part of our journey. But these challenges are in place ultimately as a learning tool. So why do bad things happen in the first place? The spiritual answer is that we're here to really learn and grow. Our life is a journey from unconsciousness to higher consciousness. And we need to go through these different challenges in order to overcome obstacles and barriers, to learn more about ourselves and each other and why we're here, to gain more perspective, to reach a higher level of consciousness, and then a higher level, and then a higher level, and so on. So if you're personally struggling with a lot of bad stuff, you're really not alone. I've personally been there with my own whole bad baggage. And it's really about finding the strength to give yourself what you need and to ask for help. I really can't stress that enough. And if things are really bad and it's affecting major areas of your life, such as work, school, relationships, you're having addiction problems, that's really the time to reach out for professional help as well. Again, this channel is really just supposed to be informative. I'm not giving any therapeutic advice. I really encourage everyone to seek the help that you need and not rely on this channel, because that's not really what this channel is about. All right. So take those bad things that happen to you as lessons. And if we catch the small negative things that are happening in our lives, like when we break a dish in the kitchen, that's actually a signal that there's something greater going on that isn't really being dealt with. So think about that. What's coming up for you when that dish breaks? You're probably really angry. Well, feel a little deeper, and I'm sure you'll uncover what that deeper anger is about. Work through that. And then those bigger things won't happen, like car accidents instead of a broken dish. Because really, we do need to be working through these things to be living a full and happy life. The more we ignore our problems, the worse it usually gets, and the harder things get for us until we really finally, again, find that strength to pull ourselves up and find the light. Thank you so much for watching my show today. Next week, we're going to be talking about the victim and perpetrator dynamics in an episode I'm calling, Are You Playing the Victim? So more on that next week. I don't see any questions or comments, but for you watching in the audience, please, now's your time. I'm going to make a quick announcement. So if you have anything else you'd like to ask before the show ends, please feel free to do that now. We have our spiritual support group for millennials coming up. It's a support group for young people ages 18 to 30 on October 12th. Now, the foundation of the group, it's a peer-led support group. It's really based on education and community building, bringing young people together so we can learn about these different topics and help empower each other to live a happy and successful life. So if you're interested in joining us for that, please check out the link I'm going to leave in the description box for our meetup page. You can find us there. All right. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to wrap up today's show. Definitely catch us next week, and everybody take care.